This is a DSi XL. I'll be doing the final testing protocol on. I just looked up my notes and it looks like I neglected to note which motherboard I put into this console, so I'll have to get that later. And this is one of my older consoles that I didn't do a big round of, or 3 rounds of testing, I only did 2. So I did one previously, now I think it's ready to go. 4 hours and 15 minutes on the time for the battery life. And now I'm going to start filling out my paperwork, which is just a series of condition scores and series of tests that I run and just any other notes that I sell with the console. Console is blue. Shell serial WW415619637. Battery life is 4 hours and 15 minutes, which is very good. I should really put together a chart of kind of what the battery life is looking like. Usually they hover around 4 hours, and I say that's pretty good. Don't know the motherboard serial number, don't know the version number yet. So what I'm going to do is get that. I'm going to get the serial number for the motherboard. This is the wrong bit. Ooh, really tiny serial number sticker. One 5926012 U01 E933. Let me look for my documentation I have for the serial number. Usually all of my motherboards are just like state the region and state anything that's obvious or any faults that are obvious, and usually all the ones that I'm assembling into these consoles are fine. Any of my boards that have faults I put aside in another bin that I look at, well, I may look at later. I still have a lot of good motherboards otherwise. 933, I think it's this one. Just gonna triple check so I don't grab the wrong motherboard serial number. Yep, that matches. Let's see if I have anything noted. 1.4.5U for the version number, so it is fully up to date. Also, no known issues. It is a US region motherboard, which... Okay. Now, usually it looks like it also has a new digitizer. That color of ribbon cable is not stock. The ones that come from Nintendo are clear and white. Since I'm in here, I hope I won't have to take this console apart again, so what I'm going to do is put a piece of non-conductive tape, or Kapton tape, over the connector for the backlight for the bottom screen, as well as the digitizer. Nintendo had pieces of tape over these out of the factory, So if they deemed it important enough to spend the pennies on giant rolls of tape, then I think I can spare just a touch of tape. I figure they found that just the connector might pop open if the console is impacted. I have not experienced anything like that in my testing, but I imagine their testing suite is far more robust and specific. Kind of taking note. It looks like there is a little bit of a scratch right here. I guess I can use the rest of my Kapton tape to just cover that. I know it's not going to contact anything, but there's nothing conductive underneath or on this shell piece. Why not? I had the little extra bit of Kapton tape. Everything else looks good. So I'm good to put this guy back together. It is not my screwdriver. Yeah, let me get these out of the way. Lower my light. There we go. So now we can start the battery of testing, which, kind of like what I alluded to before, it's all of these boxes down here. So the first one is the power board and motherboard. Basically, does the console turn on? Does it make it to the main menu without any faults? And can it open applications, which I have tested that already, but it's always just something I keep in mind. Yeah. Verify the version number 1.4.5. So yeah, a console wouldn't make it this far if it didn't at least turn on, but it's something that needs to be checked. Next is tactile buttons, which I will use an R4 card. Tactile buttons being all the physical buttons that you press. Shoulder buttons, face buttons. I have an application on an R4 card that I run. I'll just kind of press each button dozen or so times. Face buttons I don't worry about. They're usually always good. That's A, B, Y, X, start, select. D-pad can sometimes have problems, depending on what power board I take out of what console. And the shoulder buttons can also be a problem. I think it's more because the shoulder buttons themselves are a little more exposed. Ooh. So this L button's skipping inputs. There, it just skipped one. Now that just should mean it just needs a cleaning. So I'll get this thing back apart. Get that L button cleaned. I don't know, what would I say? Maybe 80% of the inputs registered as expected. Which is pretty indicative of just it needing a little cleaning. Left button is the volume shoulder button as well. Get out all that hardware and push it aside. To undo the little clip that's right there so I can get the volume buttons out. I don't do anything too scientific here. I'll get a little bottle cap. Big syringe of rubbing alcohol. Fill that cap to, I don't know, halfway or so. And then this is the shoulder button itself. I'll just submerge it completely and just press it a whole bunch with a pair of tweezers. And I mean fully submerge the button. And the first few times I press it, there's little air bubbles that come out, so hopefully this is submerging it means it will get into the contacts on the tiny little PCB that's in there and actually clean the contacts within the button itself. Okay, I think that's good. I'll let that dry for a second. There is another test I can do while the console is missing a shoulder button. Just sort of lightly put it back together. I'm also going to do image retention test, which will just be leaving it on DSI Sounds for about minute and a half, 2 minutes. And what I'm going to be looking for is after that time, I'm going to swap over to the settings menu to see if any of these visual assets transfer over. I already ran it through one of my more, I guess you could call it modern testing, because I have a test 2, so I'm pretty sure I already did this test, but never hurts to double check. Well, I'm going to try and dry off this button a little. You can see the waveform reacting to my air puffs, so I know the microphone works. I will jot down that I did have a problem with the L button, just to keep an eye on it. L button. I don't know, 80% accurate. Approximately 80% input accuracy. just to keep an eye on it. So once I put this back in, I'll test it one more time. It's probably going to be fine. And then at the very end, right when I'm done with all my testing, I'll do a button test again. So hopefully the button's as bone dry as it will be. I am using 91% rubbing alcohol, so it should dry pretty quickly. I don't know how long it's been. I'll do another 30 seconds or so. Should be good. Oh, I'm gonna. Yep. No, that looks good. I do see a little bit on the bottom. This has been fairly consistent with a lot of the consoles I've been looking at. You'll kind of see there's like a dark zone and then a lighter zone, dark, light, dark. You could kind of see that as being indicative of the pattern on DSi sounds, but I've seen this on enough consoles to say that this is perhaps normal. The image retention I'm looking for is stark. Like it looks like these assets are overlaid over the sound app, which is not normal. And then when I do soft resets, you can sometimes make out some assets, like on the corners you can see the checkerboarding. This screen you don't really see it that much. From what I understand, I guess you can kind of make out the square assets. From what I understand, this is mostly normal. This could be a sign of the display starting to fail, but you have to think that these consoles, the DSi XL platform's been out since what, like 2007, 2008. If these screens have lasted this long and they've only begun to fail, does that mean they have another 20 years on them? Does that mean they have another 5 years on them? It's hard to say. So my current understanding is, though you can make out some DSi sounds assets, that's not indicative of them failing, but like anytime soon. The image retention I'm looking for is like, yeah, there's something wrong right now. Not there might be something wrong later down the line. I can't necessarily predict that. Let's get the L button back in. This is why I don't like wearing gloves. It's hard to grab these really tiny pieces. Now, hopefully this will be the last time I open this console up. Alright, let's get my R4 card back in. Check that L button. So I'm expecting it to work just fine. Yep. So I'll test it one more time at the very end, but for now, it is good. Next is touchscreen. I'll use another... Actually, I'm going to run a calibrator on it real quick. Don't remember if I did that on this one or not. I wouldn't remember anyway, but... This is a new touchscreen, so I just want to make sure I don't have any problems with it. And then for the touchscreen, I use another application, which will just turn the bottom screen into a drawing pad. I could do this on Flipnote, but Flipnote has the little frog on the bottom corner. What I'm going to look for is I'm going to draw the perimeter and see if I see any erroneous inputs. That being if I were to draw along this edge and then just like blah 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 jags like that and nothing registers in here. That would be a bad touchscreen, but this touchscreen looks to be fine. It is brand new, so good. So microphone, headphone jack, and speaker. I'm going to combo that with an SD card slot test. I have a song loaded up on this. Now the speaker works, or the microphone works. You can see it responding when I speak. So I'm not worried about that. Turn up the volume. I'm just going to listen for both channels on the speaker. SD card works, it sees my song. And then I'm also going to plug in some headphones and check the channels on that as well. Yep, that all works. Take these out so I don't forget them. Now the SD card I usually only test once. I also, well, part of the speaker I check the little software indicator and it's going up and down. The SD card I usually only test once because I don't expect many people to swap in and out SD cards that often. Oh, excuse me. With the exception of the game card slot, which I expect to see many game cards going in and out. So next is camera, which the camera and the microphone I verify before I install or when I put this top screen together, both of them boot and show an image. Just so if either of those two components fail, I don't have to take the whole console apart. Charge port. Where did I put it? Ah, here it is. So I'll be testing a couple things with the charge port. I just have a USB tester right here. So I will stick the charger in like normal. I'm looking for solid orange charge light and amp draw. And then I will slowly wiggle around the charge port end. See if that light ever goes out, even if it's just for like a brief second. Which it isn't. Open up the console and then plug it in to see if the software indicator responds, which it does. Now, why the amp draws are different between consoles, I don't exactly know. I haven't quite dug into that. But it is charging the console. And that's really all that matters to me. The rate at which it charges, it could be multiple different factors. The cable I was using, the USB charger, I don't know. It's a little beyond my realm of understanding. Maybe something I will be able to discover later. But since I run a full battery test on these consoles where I fully discharge them and charge them back up, obviously the console's on right now. It wouldn't be on if it wasn't able to charge the battery. And now we move on to the game card slot, which I will grab my daunting pile, literal pile of game cards. Oh, I should do a sleep disturbance test. Now this one's kind of a weird one. I did have a console recently where it didn't go into sleep for some reason. I was able to fix it by just reflowing the part. But the way the console goes into sleep is it uses a magnet in the speaker, and whatever mechanism is inside the little surface mounted component right here below the A button will trigger it to go into sleep. So I have just a tiny little magnet I'll just place right below the A button. Both screens go black out, the Wi-Fi light dims, and the power light breathes, where it dims and comes back up and then goes back down. And remove the magnet, it turns back on. So I like just verifying that just in case, so I don't accidentally sell a console with that issue again, because that definitely was a weird one I wasn't expecting, nor would I test for. Let me get my game cards kind of over here. I'll kind of do one at a time and then sort of pile them up over here depending on if they pass or fail. So what I do essentially, and what I'll be doing for all these game cards, is I'll just slot it in normally. Game pops up. And then I put pressure on the game cart and then like shift it from side to side. It has a little bit of play left to right, not much, just a little. And what I'll do is I'll just keep pressing it until I eventually trigger the game card slot mechanism where it would eject the cart, and just making sure it reads it all the way down. Now, this is kind of an extreme test. You're not going to be putting pressure on the game card and like it disappeared. And that's me having the game card fully held down in the eject. Ideally, you're not going to be playing a game like that, but I'm just going to do that again. So yeah, it's when I completely bottom out the card in the game card slot. So in extreme cases like that, I usually don't worry about it too much. I will mark it as a failure, so to speak, just to see if I see that behavior in other game cards. But there's that test, just sort of shaking it side to side and bottoming it out to see kind of if it ever blips in and out, which in this case it did when it was completely bottomed out. And then I also do a few good firm whacks on my open palm just to see if the console first turns off randomly because maybe I dislodged the battery, contacts maybe aren't clean or something, or if the game card disappears. So in this case, console didn't turn off, the game didn't disappear, but since it didn't read when it was bottomed out, I'm just going to put it in a fail. Now this game has been consistently not reading in various consoles when bottomed out, so if I see that behavior again, I'm just gonna blame that more on the cart. Yeah, there it did it again. About the same sort of way where I have the card completely bottomed out in the game card slot. Raise my camera a little bit so I don't bump it. Now this one doesn't blip out when I completely bottom it out, which is usually what I want to see. Because this is the era of games that usually don't have autosave. And if you eject the card while playing it, your game either freezes or the console turns off, neither of which you want. This one blips out when I bottom out. So I will put that in the failure as well. And I almost call it failure in sort of probably a lack of a better term. Whoops, triggered. Press the shoulder button on accident. It disappearing is me ejecting the card and putting it back in. Could be as easy as just me needing a cleaning in the game card slot, which I will do. But again, since I need to go through pretty extreme lengths to make the game card disappear, like completely bottoming it out in the game card slot, I'm not going to worry about it too much. Usually what I'm looking for is if, like, I'm just doing this side to side and the game disappears, that's a problem. Tried to put it in upside down. It's not going to work. I'm ejecting it. That's why it's disappearing. Press the shoulder button again. Why is that always a chihuahua? These pet games. Oh. Yeah, I think just another round of cleaning on this game card slot and it will be perfectly fine. Maybe it still won't read those 3 cards when they're bottomed out, but one such as myself wouldn't expect you to be playing the game and holding it down in the game card slot like that. I'm going to turn it off. Apply some rubbing alcohol very liberally on the game card pins and then just sort of take it in and out of the game card slot. Rubbing alcohol kind of screws with the mechanism, so it might not eject, which it's not, but just so I can make friction on those pins inside. I feel that's the safest way to clean these game card pins without trying to jam a toothbrush in there and completely screwing those pins up, because they are very sensitive and you can bend them very easily. I would know. So though this can be very destructive for whatever card you put in, whatever card you're using to clean it with. In this case, it's a shovelware game, so I don't care about it, but you're just adding unnecessary friction to those contacts. Okay. So, I think the game card slot is good. Pencil, here it is. So, last on my test is Wi-Fi, which I've never had a console fail that, but it's just making sure that the console can connect to a hotspot, which the hotspot is my phone that I'm using as a camera, so I will do that later. So I will check the shoulder button, I'll check the L button one more time. It should have... Well, I've been doing these other tests for, what, 10, 15 minutes now? Should have been plenty of time for that to dry. And then we can go on to the more aesthetic testing, the actual score that I give it, which so far this one might not fare too well cosmetically. Let me get all these game cards out of the way, which is a mighty stack. Get my R4 card again. And what I'll probably do is, before I sell this console, I'll probably test the L button again. Usually that'll be a day or two later. Just to make sure it's fully fine. It should be. Worst comes to worst, I replace that shoulder button with just another assembly that I have. I'm just kind of testing at random spots on the button, moving my finger around and it's registering every time, which is what I would expect. Okay, so that's good. So now I need to get the shoulder, or the screw cover sung. For blue ones, I'm in no shortage of. Here's a cluster of 3 that I can grab. Oh, I need one more foot. You have been chosen. Some of them still have their adhesive on. Both good and a little irritating. Makes storing them a little bit of a pain. Move this back. There we go. So what I do to put these screw covers on is I use just the smallest amount of Elmer's glue that I can manage. And I usually manage that by just blowing a bubble with the end of the Elmer's glue and then just touching the surface of the screw. That deposits just a hair, just a tiny bit. Since these top screen screw covers don't experience any mechanical stress, I don't really have to worry about them coming off randomly. But I wanted at least a little bit of adhesive on so they don't just come off randomly. And sort of with a combination of a plastic pry tool and my tweezers, I put them on. There might be a little too much glue on this one. We'll just see if it spurts out. Oh, a little. This one's not really wanting to sit in here. I wonder if I have this top screen screw in all the way. Or it might be possible this screw cover, I wouldn't think it would be bent. Let me take that one out and see if it is just screw. Oh, it might be there's a little bit of adhesive left over on this screw. See a tag of a sticker. little bit left over from that double-sided adhesive. I guess while I'm here, I'll just make sure that that's fully seated, which it is. Get a touch more glue on there. There, that's sitting in there a lot nicer. So I'm thinking that just a little bit of leftover sticker probably folded over and it was pushing up on the corner of that screw cover. I'll have to make sure I clean that up pretty good. Let me grab some distilled water. Just a touch. Alright. Now that the back screw covers do experience some degree of mechanical stress if you place the console on a flat surface. So I'm usually a little more generous with the glue. Now, like I said, a lot of these still have their adhesive on them, but a lot of them don't. I try to peel those stickers off if they're starting to give off. They're starting to fall off. Beautiful. I'll let that kind of sit for a second. It's not going to be enough for it to dry, but just so I can kind of collect myself here and get a little bit of water. I'll also get a microfiber cloth prepared. Just load it up with distilled water so I can just give this thing a wipe down. I need to get more, running low. Got a big jug of it. The what? Oh, there's a piece of rubber on the bed inside of this. Oh, a little bit of my mat. Let me see if I can just blow it out. Ah, that's better. Oh, microfiber cloth tends to not like grabbing onto water. It'll beat up on the surface. And give it a second, it'll soak in. Ah, it's weird, this needle still has. That should do it. Bit of a tangent, but haven't had that happen before on any of my syringes, so it's a bit weird. Alright. I will say the screens look really good. At least physically. Right. Now, we can go into the more cosmetic assessment of this console. We have physical condition of the shell, physical condition of the hardware, which is the buttons and the screw covers, physical conditions of the screen, which is the lens and the digitizer. Those are the clear pieces of plastic or glass above the LCDs. And then the screen condition, which are the LCDs themselves. So, for the physical condition of the console, you could probably tell immediately this glossy piece is in pretty rough shape. There's some pretty big gashes right there, right there, right there, right there. There's a good scratch right there that does not look as prominent as it appears to person. There's a ring of wear all the way around this glossy shell, just a lot of light scratches. There's another good sized one right there. Right up here, you can see discoloration just along this edge. As far as like the hinge itself, there's a little bit of damage along the right next to the diffusers. Good mark right there. Come on, camera. Yeah, there you go. Couple good marks right there. Going along the edges. There's some colored wear right there. This side looks pretty good. There's a scratch. Ooh, that's a pretty good mark right there on the corner. More colored wear right here on the corner. Colored wear. Backside, yeah. Even if I hold it right here, there's just a lot of good scratching, especially on the corners. Kind of like what we were seeing down here in the bottom corner. Come on, camera. Just both corners have these big, good blemishes on them. Just a lot of hair scratches. Not really much to say. You can see them all pretty good. The face. Face looks pretty good. I see some, like, marks up here. I'm not entirely sure what those are. Those might just be different wear. Not exactly, they're not exactly scratches, but they're discoloring that doesn't really go away when you clean it. Some right here too. There's discoloration around the A button, which the discoloration, see if I can try and get a good angle on it. You can kind of see it. This type of discoloration I see just from wear, just from a finger, just friction. I don't see it so much around the D-pad, a little on the corners. And kind of make them out. There's some marks around the power button. I think other than that, it looks pretty good. Face button. Face-wise. It's like a little piece of glitter in there or something. It's not great, but I think I'll give it a good. This is a 1 out of 3. Why I'm not giving it a fair is because I think these face shell pieces are in pretty good shape otherwise. And the back shell piece, this actual bottom shell piece, this could definitely be in worse shape. So heavy scratching on glossy. I don't even think it's really worth me trying to list everything. Like, heavy scratching on glossy and back shell. Marks on face. Discoloration around A. Physical condition of the hardware, that's all the buttons. Face buttons look real good. So do the screw covers, I think they look really good. No discoloration or any marks on them. They're still probably drying, so I'm not going to be too rough on them, but they look good. Shoulder buttons, I usually pick shoulder buttons out that match the shell condition, but it looks like I was pretty generous when it came to the R and L button. There's just a little bit of damage on each of the corners, just a little bit. And then the bottom screw covers look good. I'm gonna give it a very good. Little damage on R and L. Okay, so now for the physical condition of the screens, that, like I was saying, that's going to be the lens and the digitizer. Now I'm in a fairly dusty environment, so it's just combat eating dust as it's falling down. Like, looks good, but then there'll just be specks that just hit it. So let me sort of... Looks like there's a little bit of rippling down here. I think that's just... that's under the screen protector. This top screen lens is flawless. I think there's one speck of dust underneath that guy right there, which I can't see it when the console's on, so that's sort of my criteria of whether or not I try and fish it out or if I leave it. It looks a lot more prominent than it is. I will note that though. And I'm thinking the sort of marks down here on the bottom screen, I think those are underneath the screen protector. Those are just the outer fringes. Those can be really hard. Screen protector, I've never been very good at putting screen protectors on, but I try to get it the best I can. So, I'm going to do very good spec. Specs under top screen. Okay, now for the screen condition. Now that will be the actual LCDs. When I put these consoles together, I try to match the LCDs the best I can. Sometimes I can get them pretty spot on. Other times I just get as close as I can. It's just the nature of how these screens were made and calibrated and whatever else technology goes into them. possible that the motherboard is also influencing how the screens appear. Far more variables than, at least, that I can understand. So I get the best I can, and we'll grade it based on that. So I'm going to turn off my light and just kind of look at them. With the light off, they look really good. They look like they match pretty well. Like, shows up on the screen that they show up pretty good. Light on. I would say maybe some light yellowing on the bottom screen. It's almost hard to say if that's almost just something I say about every bottom screen at this point. Does kind of look like it though. It's not going to show up, but I'll say very good. Minor yellowing on bottom screen. Okay. So that is a very good, very good, very good, and a good 2467, which puts it right in the good category. Which I think is fair. Well, I think is good. And thankfully not fair. Since I'm thinking about it, I'm going to check that L button one more time. And then I'm going to call this console good. Yep. Detecting all my inputs, so by my testing protocol, it is good.